This is the Buffett Mindset channel where we practice patience and calm wealth building daily. If you enjoy these types of videos, consider liking and subscribing. This will mean a lot to the channel. What if this moment found you pays something inside you refused to keep sleeping? Not the kind of sleep that closes your eyes, but the kind that closes your potential. You've been walking through days like a ghost lately, doing what required, saying what expected, but deep down you know there's more. You feel it when the noise fades and the world grows quiet, that pull towards something undefined but undeniable. That pull is not random, it's not coincidence. It's your soul shaking the cage, whispering, "Wake up." That's why this message found you now. Not a second too early, not a minute too late. Because this isn't a video. This is a mirror. This is a voice echoing from the part of you that you've ignored for too long. You see, there comes a time in every man's life when comfort turns to poison, when routine begins to rot, when the habits that once kept you safe start to suffocate you. You've built walls, called them security, and now you wonder why you can't breathe. The world didn't steal your freedom, you traded it away, piece by piece, every time you said, maybe tomorrow. Every time you lowered your standard to fit in. Every time you swallowed your own truth to avoid conflict. But too, the thing about truth never dies quietly. It waits, it lingers, it grows louder the longer you avoid it. That the restlessness you feel, that the tension that wakes you at 3 a.m., not because something's wrong, but because something missing. The world would love nothing more than for you to stay asleep, to keep scrolling, to keep reacting, to keep existing inside the cage of noise. Every headline, every algorithm, every voice of complaint, they're not neutral. They're programming you, teaching you to fear, teaching you to doubt, teaching you to stay small. You're being trained without consent to believe you're powerless. But to the truth, you are not powerless. You are unpracticed. You've let the world train your mind while you forgot that the mind belongs to you. That the real theft of modern life, not money, not freedom, but focus, the greatest minds in history didn't live with less chaos. They simply reclaimed control of their attention. Your thoughts are the architects of your future, and right now, they're being built by strangers. If you don't take the blueprint back, your life will continue to look like everyone else, noisy, busy, unfulfilled. The average man today is addicted to distraction. The stillness terrifies him. Silence forces him to face himself, and most men don't want to see who they've become. But you are not most men. You're here. You felt the weight of mediocrity pressing against your chest, and something inside you said no more. That is your awakening. Don't let it pass. Because once you wake up, once you truly see, you can't go back. You can't unlearn the truth. You can't unfeel the hunger for more. But understand this. Awakening is not comfortable. It's not gentle. It doesn't arrive with soft music and perfect timing. It comes through friction, through breakdown, through quiet realizations that shatter illusions. You might lose people. You might outgrow places. You might feel alone for a while. But remember, the tree grows in silence. The storm tests its roots. And only the oak that survives both earns its strength. This path isn't about becoming louder, but about becoming clearer. You don't have to convince the world. You have to command yourself. You'll start by noticing how often you speak against yourself in thought and word and tone. "I'm tired, Anna." Maybe someday those aren't harmless phrases, they're commands. And your subconscious obeys every one. You are programming yourself without realizing it. Every doubt you repeat becomes a wall. Every affirmation of strength becomes a door. Which one are you built more of? The mind doesn't care whether you feed it poison or power. It simply multiplies what it's given. So from this moment on, you must become the guardian of your language. Speak only what you wish to live. Think on what you wish to build. That not wishful thinking, that spiritual engineering. Every morning you'll wake and declare your Ren. You'll say it even if you don't feel it. "I am not the man I was yesterday. I am building something sacred. My focus is wealth. My thoughts are order. My discipline is freedom." You will repeat it until your body believes it. As belief is built through repetition, not emotion. Emotion fades, repetition ingrains. The rich don't rise because they're quick. They rise because they train their minds while others train excuses. If you repeat a truth long enough, the subconscious stops arguing. It obeys. It begins to bend your behavior, attract your opportunities, and align your life to match the new law you've installed. And then the most important law: no one is coming to save you. Not a mentor, not a friend, not fate. You've been waiting for a knock that was never meant to come, because you are the knock. You are the signal. You are the permission. The man who finally realizes that his future is self-made becomes unstoppable, because he no longer wastes time begging the world for validation. He creates value. He becomes cause, not effect. And when a man becomes cause, everything shifts. He no longer asks for confidence. He earns it through consistency. He no longer prays for strength. He proves it through discipline. This video found you because you were ready. You may not feel ready, but readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You don't wait to feel powerful. You act powerfully until it becomes second nature. You don't wait for motivation. You move until momentum takes over. You don't wait for certainty. You act in faith. Let clarity var. I know that because action raw for the perfect execution. You went to hurry to about and kind of help your see technical thing. You don't wait to feel powerful. You act powerfully until it becomes second nature. You don't wait for motivation. You woo until momentum takes over. You don't wait for certainty. You act in faith. Let clarity var. Kind of back because action raw flat down underlies and overthink and move right at the play. Cut the noise. Build the thing. Start the habit. Replace one weak pattern today, and the world you live in will look different tomorrow. This kid, the secret, every builder, every thinker, every leader, eventually learns the universe does not respond to wishes, it responds to will. And the moment you finally decide with your whole being that enough is enough, the world rearranges itself around that conviction. That not luck, that law. The moment a man commands himself, life salutes him. Now stand in, not metaphor, but literally. Feel your feet on the ground, feel the weight of your old power returning to you. Look around at the world, it hasn't changed, but you have that, what awakening feels like. Quiet, subtle, but unstoppable. Every great empire began in a moment just like this. A man, alone, deciding that the story must change. This is yours. Don't let it slip back into sleep. When this message ends, don't scroll away. Sit with it, let it itch. Because this didn't find you by accident. It found you because your future was tired of waiting. There'll come a day when you realize that every detour, every delay, every pain, every coincidence was never random. You'll look back at the chapters that broke you and see they were simply the bridges that brought you here. The message you're hearing right now isn't accident, it's alignment. You didn't stumble onto these words by chance. You were guided deep because your spirit finally grew tired of pretending. It's no small thing to admit that the life you've been living is smaller than the one you were built for. That courage, not failure. The mind resists awakening, but comfort is seductive. It whispers, you're fine where you are. Even in your soul screams for expansion. But that whisper dies today, because whether you're ready or not, life has decided that it's time for you to wake up. You felt that, haven't you? The strange pull to change, the quiet discontent that keeps visiting you like a ghost in the quiet hours. That not anxiety, that the alarm clock of destiny. It rings not to annoy you, but to remind you. It says you're wasting time pretending you don't know who you are. Every man is born with a calling, but few have the nerve to answer. They drown it under noise jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, opinions that cage them. They call that survival. But you weren't made to survive, you were made to command. The world will keep testing you until you remember that. There's a reason you're being pushed to the edge lately. Life doesn't send comfort when it's time to grow, it sends pressure. It squeezes out what no longer belongs. It burns the illusion of who you thought you were so the real you can finally rise. The pain you're in right now, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You're not being broken down, you're being carved into precision. Every storm that hit you was a chisel shaping your strength. The fire you cursed was the forge that tempered your mind. The silence you feared was the soil where your power was seated. You weren't delayed. You were being developed. And now, life is calling in what it built. The reason this message found you is because your training is complete. You don't need more waiting, more planning, more permission. You need execution. You need to look in the mirror and realize that no savior is coming because you were the savior you were waiting for. The world doesn't hand crowns to the hesitant. It watches for those who choose themselves before anyone else does. You must stop thinking of destiny as something to find. Destiny is not hidden. It built, one decision at a time, under pressure in silence when no one claps and no one notices. The man who builds while others sleep will one day live the life others only dream about.
This is your sign, your signal, your confirmation. Whatever you've been postponing, start. Whatever you've been afraid to say, cease it. Whatever you've been resisting, face it. There's a reason the same lessons keep repeating. You haven't learned them yet. But once you do, they disappear, and in their place appears freedom. You see, the universe is efficient. It doesn't waste pain. It doesn't repeat hardship out of cruelty. It repeats it out of love to make sure you don't leave this world without remembering your power. When you begin to live with awareness, you'll start seeing signs everywhere, not mystical symbols or coincidences, but mirrors. Every encounter, every obstacle, every delay reflects your internal state. If you live in scarcity, the world will show you lack. If you live in strength, the world will show you opportunity. Life doesn't punish. It mirrors. It gives you not what you want, but what you are. That's why change always begins within. You can't escape the prison of your circumstances until you escape the prison of your thoughts. And the door has always been open. It's just that you kept asking for the key while holding it in your hand.
You wanted certainty for taking the steps. Life doesn't give certainty. It gives tests. Every test asks one question. Will you trust yourself? You've been trying to earn the world's approval for moving, but that's not how great men operate. They move first and approval follows. They trust their own fire before the world sees the flame. That's the kind of faith you must build, not blind faith, but earned faith. The kind that comes from doing what you said you would over and over until your soul believes you win. Let this be the day you stop calling fear a reason. Fear will never vanish. It will only submit when it outworked. Action, star, or doubt. Every time you move forward, you reclaim another piece of yourself from hesitation. The world responds not to the man who wishes, but to the man who decides. The moment you declare, I'm done waiting, the current of life shifts beneath your feet. You'll notice it in subtle ways. The right people begin appearing. The right ideas begin surfacing. The fog begins to clear. That not magic, that alignment. Life always conspires for the one who finally takes command. But don't mistake alignment for ease. You might to certainty for taking the step, but life doesn't give certainty, it gives tests. Every test asks one question. Will you trust yourself? You've been trying to earn the world approval for moving, but that's not how great men operate. They move first and approval follows. They trust their own fire before the world sees the flame. That's the kind of faith you must build, not blind faith, but earned faith. The kind that comes from doing what you said you would over and over until your soul believes you win. Let this be the day you stop calling fear a reason. Fear will never vanish. It will only submit when it outworked. Action, star, doubt. Every time you move forward, you reclaim another piece of yourself from hesitation. The world responds not to the man who wishes, but to the man who decides. The moment you declare, I'm done waiting, the current of life shifts beneath your feet. You'll notice it in subtle ways. The right people begin appearing. The right ideas begin surfacing. The fog begins to clear. That not magic, that alignment. Life always conspires for the one who finally takes command. But don't mistake alignment for ease. The path ahead won't be smooth. You'll face resistance, the kind that breaks the lazy and forges the disciplined. The distractions will multiply. The noise will rise. The world will test how serious you are. And every test will ask the same question. Do you still choose yourself? When everything falls apart, will you still keep your standard? When no one believes, will you still hold your vision? When fear speaks, will you still move forward? That's the measure of greatness. Not talent, not timing, but consistency under fire. You were never meant to live quietly. You were meant to lead, to build, to inspire. And maybe that calling scared you because you thought leadership required perfection. It doesn't. It requires authenticity. The world doesn't need another polished voice. It needs a man who speaks from scars, not scripts. That's why this message found you, not to flatter you, but to awaken you, to remind you that your story, even the messy parts, is the medicine someone else needs. You don't need to be ready to start. You need to start to become ready. So from this moment on, make a vow. No more sleepwalking. No more half-living. No more waiting for a sign. This is the call. This is the line in the sand, and every day from now until your last breath, we remember this truth. Life doesn't happen to you, responds through you. And if you can hold that truth through every storm, through every silence, through a moment of uncertainty, then no power on earth can keep you from becoming who you were always meant to be. Now take a deep breath, my friend. The next chapter has been waiting for you all along. You'll know you've crossed the threshold when the noise that once distracted you begins to sound distant. You'll walk into the same rooms, but you'll feel different inside them. The conversations that once hooked you, you lose their pull. The validation you used to crave will taste hollow. That not arrogance, it awakening. The things that once defined you no longer fit, and that how you know you're evolving. Every time you outgrow an environment will feel uncomfortable. You'll question yourself, you'll doubt, you'll feel the tug to return to what's familiar. But remember, comfort is not peace. It's sedation. You didn't come this far to fall back asleep.
Old will try to call you back with guilt, with nostalgia, with whispers of you've changed. When it does, smile and say, yes, that was the point. Because you cannot remain the same man and expect a different life. Transformation requires death, the death of old thinking, the death of old patterns, the death of old identities that once protected you, but now imprison you. Every identity has an expiration date, and when you outlive one, the universe will begin to tear it away. That's why things start falling apart when you start leveling up. It's not sabotage, it's shedding. The same way a snake must leave its skin to keep growth, you must leave the version of you that was comfortable being small. The friends who don't understand, the habits that no longer serve you, the places that drain your fire, they're not punishments to let go of, they're weights you can't afford to carry any longer. And yet letting go will feel like loss. It will ache. You'll stand in the ruins of what was once your identity, unsure of who you're supposed to be next. But the magic happens.
That's where the men who become legends learn to stand still in the unknown. They don't rush to rebuild. They don't scramble for validation. They let the silence teach them. Because the silence between who you were and who you're becoming is sacred ground. That's where clarity grows. That's where the next version of you starts whispering its plans. You'll begin to see that the universe was never punishing you. It was pruning you. It wasn't taking things away to hurt you. It was clearing space for the life that belongs to you now. Every time something left, it made room for something better. Every person who walked out made space for someone aligned. Every rejection redirected you close to truth. Every disappointment sharpened your discernment. And if you stay patient long enough, you'll see the pattern. Nothing was wasted. Even the pain had purpose. You've heard people say everything happens for a reason, but I'll tell you something deeper. Everything happens for your refinement. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who ascend is that the first group tries to return to who they were before the pain. The second group uses the pain to become unrecognizable.
Don't try to go back. You're not meant to fit into the same skin, the same room, or the same rhythm. You've seen too much, grown too much, learned too much. Going back now will be self-betrayal. So when life pushes you to your knees, don't curse the ground. Press your hand into the soil. That bet every great seed begins. What feels like burial is often planting. What feels like ending is simply emergence in disguise. Your roots are grown in the dark, quietly preparing to rake the surface. The men who understand this never panic when things collapse. They rebuild without bitterness. They don't ask, why me? They ask, what is this making of me? Because purpose isn't found, it's forged. The man you're becoming will look back at this version of you and thank him for not quitting, for not numbing, for not drowning in distraction when everything begged him to. You will remember the nights when you stayed awake, whispering hope into your own heart. You will remember how heavy your doubts felt and how light your conviction became once you decided to move anyway.
And you'll realize the truth that only warriors and wise men learn. You were never stuck. You were stationed. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Every lesson that feels cruel now will one day sound like a blessing in a different language. You'll laugh at how you once begged for ease. Ease would have softened you. You'll smile at how you once thought struggle was failure, when it was really the evidence of transformation. Because once you learn how to yield pain power, the world loses its hold over you. No circumstance can break a man who understands that adversity is not the enemy, it's the evil. You must also remember this: gratitude is the fuel of the awakened mind, not the shallow kind that says, I'm thankful because I have things. No, the kind that says, I'm thankful because I am becoming. Gratitude in the middle of difficulty rewires the mind for abundance. It shifts your focus from lack to leadership. The man who can find peace in the storm will walk through life untouched by chaos. And that doesn't make him lucky, it makes him disciplined. You'll realize that discipline is not punishment either. It's freedom disguised as repetition. Every morning you rise early. Every time you push through fatigue. Every time you keep a promise to yourself. You're reminding your subconscious who's in charge. You're teaching your spirit to lead. When the noise returns, and you'll know how to silence it. You'll return to stillness, to breathing, to clarity. You'll remember that the world outside cannot shake the world within unless you open the door, and you'll close it with calm authority. You'll stop explaining your path to those who don't walk it. You'll stop proving your worth to those who never saw it. You'll stop dosifying your decisions to those still asleep. Instead, you'll walk in peace. Not because the world is quieter, but because you finally stopped arguing with yourself. By then, you'll understand what true strength is. Not dominance, not control, not pride, but peace under fire. You'll become the calm in the storm. And when others see that, they'll feel something ancient stir in them. They'll ask how you found your clarity, your patience, your purpose. And you'll simply say, I woke up, I listened. Because in the end, this message didn't find you, you found it. The truth was always searching for you. You just had to become still enough to hear it. Now you know, now you remember. And from this day forward, you'll never again confuse survival with living. You'll never again let fear disguise itself feed logic. You'll never again wait for permission to be who you already are. You are awake now. Don't let the world rock you back to sleep. When you finally decide to step into your power, the world won't clap. It'll test you. It'll send storms to see if you still mean it. It'll send silence to see if you'll rake. And most painfully, it'll send the ghosts of your old self whispering, come back. That's how life confirms your decision. You ask to be strong, so it gives you weight to carry. You ask for clarity, so it removes your distractions. You ask for freedom, so it cuts away what was never real. That's why this season of your life feels heavy, lonely, and uncertain. It's not because you're lost, it's because you're being leveled up. The soil always darkens before the seed breaks through. You are not buried, you are becoming. But tell the truth, most men can't handle choosing yourself means losing approval. It means being misunderstood, often by the people who swore they cared. Because when you rise, you reflect back to others what they've avoided in themselves. Your courage exposes their comfort. Your clarity highlights their confusion, and rather than grow, they'll try to pull you back to where they feel safe. It's not malice, it's fear. They fear being left behind. They fear seeing someone escape the gravity they accepted at fate. You can love them, but you cannot shrink for them. Every time you dim your light to fit someone's shadow, you betray the man you were sent to become. You will have to learn to walk alone for a while. Not forever, but long enough to rebuild your foundation without borrowed voices. The silence will sting at first. You'll reach for validation out of habit and find none. You'll crave old patterns of comfort and realize they no longer satisfy. But that's when the alchemy begins. In solitude, you start hearing your true voice again, the one you silenced under the noise of other people's opinions. It'll speak softly at first. It'll remind you of who you used to dream of being before the world told you to be realistic. That voice is the compass you lost when you started living for approval. Follow it again, and you'll remember the direction of your destiny. Every day, you'll be tempted to go back to make peace with mediocrity, to apologize for your ambition, to pretend you don't want more. But remember this, the cage will always seem safer after the first taste of freedom. The world inside the bars will call you crazy for leaving. It'll call you arrogant for believing you could fly, but you've already felt the wind, haven't you? You can't unfeel that. You can't unknow what you've seen. Once you've glimpsed your potential, the old world dies behind you. It can no longer feed you because hunger has turned to purpose. So when it gets dark again, remember that darkness is not your enemy, it's your test. The greatest men in history found themselves in darkness before they found their light. Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the bulb. Carnegie was a poor immigrant before he built empires. Ford went bankrupt 5 times before perfecting his system. They weren't lucky, they were loyal to their vision. They kept walking when the road disappeared because they understood that faith isn't about knowing what next, it's about knowing who you are when nothing's certain, and that the real shift happening in you right now. You're learning to trust yourself again, not because everything makes sense, but because your spirit refuses to stay silent any longer. You've carried doubt like armor for years, but it's time to lay it down. Doubt kept you safe, but it also kept you small. Every belief that says, I'm not ready, I can't, or I'll fail again, is nothing but a story written by a version of you who didn't know his power yet. That story served its purpose, but it's time for a new one. The moment you choose to rewrite it, everything begins to rearrange. You'll wake one morning and realize that peace doesn't mean everything perfect. It means you've stopped negotiating your worth. It means your happiness no longer depends on outcomes. You'll stop chasing love, success, or approval and start attracting them, because your energy will shift from needing to knowing. The man who knows his value walks differently. He doesn't demand attention, he commands it. It doesn't force opportunity, he magnetizes it. He doesn't beg for loyalty, he earns it through the gravity of his conviction that who you're becoming. And dead the paradox. The moment you stop needing others to see you, they start to. Because the world is drawn to certainty. When you woo with quiet conviction, you awaken something in others. They begin to sense that rare stillness, that calm power. They may not understand it, but they respect it. The loudest man in the room seeks attention. The calmest man already has it. That calm comes from a man who has chosen himself, not just once, but every single day. So understand this choosing yourself isn't a moment, it's a practice. It's what you do every time fear whispers, wait. It's what you do every time the world tells you to settle. It's what you do every time you look in the mirror and decide that the man staring back deserves your loyalty more than anyone else. Choosing yourself doesn't mean isolation. It means alignment. It means every thought, word, and action reflects the truth of who you are and who you're becoming. And that's why this message reached you now. Because somewhere deep inside you already decided. You might not have said it out loud, but your spirit made the choice. That's why you've been restless. That's why nothing feels the same. That's why you keep finding messages like this one. It's not the algorithm, it's attraction. You're drawing in what you're ready to become. This is your reflection speaking to you from the future saying, we made it. Keep going. And when you do, when you truly choose yourself, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally stop fighting yourself. You move through life with clarity, purpose, and quiet dominance. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. The storms still come, but they can't touch you. The noise still rises, but it can't shake you. Because the man who chooses himself once can fall, but the man who chooses himself daily can never be defeated. So take this Savior proof. You are meant to hear these words right now, not by chance, but by law. Because destiny always meets those who are finally ready to answer. Now go forward, not a seeker, but a builder. Because you were never waiting for the world to choose you. The world was waiting for you to choose yourself. The greatest lie told to men was that they had to wait for the right time, for permission, for a sign, for someone to give them the nod that it's okay to begin. But the truth, the one nobody dares to say out loud, is that there is no right time. There never was. The only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live is your own hesitation. Life will not roll out a red carpet for you. It will not hand you clarity, nor will it promise comfort. Life only respects the man who moves, the one who acts before he feels ready, the one who builds before the applause. Because the universe does not reward thought, it rewards motion, and most people die still thinking. Every morning you wake up, you're given two choices, to repeat or to rise. Repeat the same excuse, the same fears, the same tired patterns of doubt, or rise into the discipline that sets you free. The difference between those who build legacies and those who fade quietly is not luck. It's obedience. Not obedience to rules, but to calling. The average man obeys his emotions. The exceptional man obeys his principles. He does what he said he would do long after the mood that made him say it has passed. That what separates the fleeting from the legendary. That what forges unshaken self-respect. You see, the man who keeps promises to himself becomes dangerous, not to others, but to weakness. Because when your own mind trusts you, the world begins to bend around that trust. You stop flinching at adversity. You stop asking, can I handle this? And instead declare, watch me. You stop chasing inspiration because you've replaced it with structure. And in that structure lies freedom. Every system you build, every habit you keep, every sacrifice you endure, those are bricks in the cathedral of your character. They are invisible to the world at first, but when the time comes, they will stand taller than every tower built on shortcuts and noise. When you truly choose yourself, something remarkable happens. You stop playing small games. You no longer waste energy proving your worth to people who cannot see it. You stop explaining your vision to those who lack imagination. You stop waiting for understanding from those still sleeping. Because once you see what's possible, your only competition becomes your own potential. The mirror becomes your mentor. The silence becomes your counsel. The work becomes your prayer. That when the world begins to take you seriously, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Choosing yourself is not about ego. It's about stewardship. You were given time, mind, and breath to sacred tools, not toys. You are not there to coast, you are there to create. Every hour wasted on worry, every day spent seeking permission is a debt to your destiny. You were meant to multiply what you were given, not maintain it. So when you feel that restlessness, that ache that says there's more, don't suppress it. It's not greed, it's guidance. That ache is proof that your potential is still alive. It's your spirit refusing to die in mediocrity. And it to keep calling until you answer. But to answer, you must break the oldest curse of all, the curse of waiting for certainty. Every man who waits for perfect conditions dies unfulfilled. The men who move despite uncertainty, despite fear, despite failure, those are the men the world remembers, because fear never leaves it. Debt respects the man who walks through it. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. It knowing that the voice say, you can't, is nothing but an echo from a smaller version of you. The real you, the one buried under layers of doubt and delay, has never been afraid. He'd just been waiting for you to listen again. When you do, when you finally begin, you'll notice something strange. The resistance that once terrified you will start to bow. The world begins to move differently. Opportunities emerge where there were none. The timing that always felt wrong suddenly feels right. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The universe doesn't give to the hesitant. It responds to certainty. You've been asking life to trust you while you've been doubted yourself. That's not how it works. Life meets you at your level of conviction, not your level of desire. And once you decide that nothing will stop you, life becomes obedient to that command. But don't expect instant reward. The early stages will test your faith more than your skill. You'll question whether the sacrifice is worth it. You'll see others taking shortcuts, gaining attention, and you'll wonder if you're doing it right. You're not. You're just walking the path of substance in a world addicted to spectacle. Let them chase the spotlight. You're building the stage. Let them perform. You're mastering your craft. When the dust settles, when the trends die, when the noise fades, you'll still be standing. Because true power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being unshaken. And in something no one tells you. And choosing yourself means you'll outgrow people, environments, even versions of love. It'd hurt. The man who evolves must grieve. But grief is not a sign you've lost your way. It's a sign you're shedding the unnecessary. You cannot take everyone with you, and that's okay. The ones meant for your next chapter will recognize you by your energy, not your explanation. They feel your peace and know they're in the presence of someone who's done the inner work. Because choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish, it makes you magnetic. The world cannot resist a man who is whole within himself. So understand this, every time you act in alignment with your higher standard, you rewrite your destiny. Every time you refuse the easy path, you forge another layer of strength. Every time you choose to keep going when no one's watching, you earn the kind of confidence that no failure can erase. That how you build a life that can't be taken from you because it's rooted in who you've become, not what you've gained. This is your wake-up call. This is not a motivational moment. It's a contract between you and the man you've always known you could be. From this moment on, no more waiting, no more deflecting, no more apologizing for wanting more. Stand tall, breathe deep, and remember the world doesn't need another copy of someone else's courage. It needs your original fire. The one buried under hesitation, the one ready to rise, the one that brought you right there to this moment, to this message, to this truth. You were never lost, only called. And now that you've heard the call, it's time to answer. Not tomorrow, not someday. And when you finally answer that call, something ancient inside you stirs as if a sleeping giant rises after centuries of silence. You'll start to feel life moving through you differently. The same air will feel denser, heavier, with meaning. The same sunrise that used to pass unnoticed will look like an invitation. Because once you choose yourself, the entire world begins to mirror that choice. Your surroundings respond to your new standard. People start treating you the way you treat yourself. Opportunities start forming where hesitation once stood. Every decision becomes a ripple of authority. You no longer wait for signs. You become one. You no longer hope for miracles. You move like one. The old version of you operated on permission. The new version operates on purpose. And purpose is a dangerous thing in the hands of a man who finally remembers his worth. It burns through excuses, it fires through paper. It makes fear look small and comfort feel like a cage. When purpose enters, the trivial leaves, gossip, envy, comparison, all of it dissolves, because a man with direction doesn't have time to be distracted. You'll find yourself waking earlier, thinking clearer, walking slower but stronger. You'll stop rushing to prove and start focusing to build, because the man who knows where he's going no longer competes, he creates. Every step becomes deliberate. Every word carries weight. Every silence becomes sacred. But let me warn you, purpose will cost you your comfort. It will demand sacrifice, not of your peace, but of your old patterns. You can't carry old habits into new heights. You can't bring procrastination into purpose. You can't keep living like time is infinite when you finally realize it isn't. The average man will call you obsessed. They'll say you've changed, that you're too folk, too serious, too detached. They won't understand that this isn't obsession, it's obedience. You're obeying the truth of who you were always meant to be, and that obedience will look like rebellion to the lazy. But let them talk, because while they whisper, you're building something eternal, discipline, legacy, peace. The men who change the world are never understood at first. They move differently because they've seen differently. They speak less because they've learned that power doesn't need to shout. They stand taller because they've learned that humility is not weakness, it's grounded strength. They give more, because they no longer operate from lack. They don't wait for inspiration. They become meant. That the kind of man you're becoming now, quietly lethal, inwardly still, outwardly unstoppable. And it not because you gained something new, it because you removed everything false. You see, choosing yourself isn't adding more, it's subtracting what never belonged. You'll realize that most of what held you back was noise. The opinions of those who never built anything. The fears that were never tested. The doubts that were never yours to begin with. Once you peel that away, you see how simple greatness really is. It's not about being perfect. It's about being precise, doing what matters consistently, thinking with clarity, speaking with intent, moving with integrity. And when that alignment becomes habit, everything you touch begins to elevate. Your work, your relationships, your thoughts, they all rise to meet your new frequency. That when the magic happens, you stop chasing and start attract. You stop explaining and start embodying. The world begins to reorganize itself around your conviction. People who doubted you will start asking for your advice. Doors that were closed will begin to open, not because they suddenly became available, but because you finally became visible to them. Visibility isn't about exposure, it's about energy. When your energy changes, your world must. That not wishful thinking, it law. The man who has mastered himself becomes magnetic. He doesn't seek opportunity, it seeks him. But don't mistake magnetism for ease. The higher you rise, the heavier the resistance. Every level of power demands a deeper level of discipline. You'll be tempted to coast, to celebrate too early, to relax once you see progress. But remember this, momentum dies in comfort. The moment you start feeling proud of your growth, double your standards. Not because you're ungrateful, but because mastery has no finish line. The day you stop sharpening your blade is the day rust begins to form. Stay hungry, stay humble, stay building. Because even when the world thinks you've made it, your work has only begun. The truth is, most people never get this far. They start the journey but turn back when the path gets lonely. They want change but not transformation. They want success but not sacrifice. They want recognition, but not refinement. But you're different. You didn't come this far for half-truths and half-measures. You didn't survive those silent battles is to settle for mediocre, or you're here because something in you refuses to die quietly. Something in you knows that you were built for more than existing. You're not chasing success, you're reclaiming destiny. And destiny doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to will. So every morning, remind yourself, I am not behind, I am becoming, I am not waiting, I am walking, I am not lost, I am led. And every night, remind yourself, I did not survive this long to surrender now. The same fire that woke me will carry me, the same truth that found me will guide me, the same calling that shook me did not abandon me. You are not doing this for applause, you are doing this for alignment. You are building a life that feels as good on the inside as its look on the outside. That is real wealth. That is real success. That is what happens when you finally choose yourself and keep choosing yourself every single day. So rise, not that a man seeking to prove, but at a man who already knows. Let your silence speak. Let your work reach. Let your presence command. Because you were never waiting for this moment. This moment was waiting for you.